Your mother's in here with his cash. Would you like to leave a message? I see that she gets it.
If this is all over the place. I've tried to block out a lot of it. I'm 22 now, but when I was 18, I was using Tinder and was pretty new at it, only having it for a few months. I'm pretty sure this was the last month of my senior year. Also, I am terrified of meeting someone who isn't who they say or has bad intentions, as I've been harmed before. I always texted my best friends and dad what I was doing, where, and who with, including a picture. I told them if I didn't text them within a half hour of the meeting time to call me. I matched with a guy on it named Aaron, and we started talking. Side note, I'm 5'9", and though I don't have a problem dating a guy an inch or two shorter than me, I do prefer my height or taller. Aaron and I planned to meet up at our local family fun park, go-karts, mini-golf, bumper boats, etc. That night, we went mini-golfing, and I drove all the way there and texted that I'm there. It was early, so I walked up to the front of the place and stood outside waiting for him. I see one guy, and I'm praying it's not him. It's not. I stand there a little longer and see someone matching Aaron's picture walking towards me, but I realize that he's shorter in person than he seemed in pictures. He walks up, and he's at least 4 inches shorter than me. He asks my name, confirming if it's me. I say yes, and long story short, I'm super uncomfortable already, and we eventually make our way inside and then go to the back outside area with the mini-golf. I see my friend from high school at the checkout counter for the mini-golf and give him a help me look. He doesn't comprehend or couldn't help. Aaron and I go to mini-golf and make it through the course pretty quickly. The entire time he is making uncomfortable jokes and sexual comments, and I'm barely responding in full sentences. When we're done, we sit down at the tables in the back and talk for a bit, mainly about him and his sexual escapades and how college is for him. I'm extremely anxious and uncomfortable at this point, not too far from a panic attack. After about 10 minutes, the whole date lasted maybe 45 minutes, I say that I really need to get home and stand up. He followed, and we end up back outside in front of the place. He shrugs and says he had fun, leaning in for a hug. I hug back, but let go after a second. I feel him hold on, and panic sets in. I know he's going to try to kiss me. We both lean back, and he looks up at me, puckers his lips, and starts leaning in. I back up and stand taller, saying, "No." He pauses and laughs. "What?" All I could say was no again, and he laughed again, saying, "No kiss?" I shake my head and say no a third time. He says, "One kiss?" I again shake my head and say no, starting to walk away. He follows me, asking, "Come on, just one kiss." I more firmly say no and keep walking, grabbing my purse at my side. I have my keys in my hand and am 10 feet from my truck. He's still following me, and he says, "Just one kiss. Come on, kiss me." This time, I'm 4 feet from the taillight of my truck, and I dig into my purse. I pull out my pepper spray and turn towards him, pointing it at him, and say a final no. He holds up his hands and laughs. "Okay." He starts stepping backwards. "Well, I'll see you for our second date." I probably gave him an "are you stupid" look before booking it into my truck, locking the doors and checking around me. He was nowhere to be seen. I started my truck and immediately called my best friend, near tears at this point, and was unable to catch my breath, but trying to stop the panic attack from happening. She answers after a few rings and asks me if I'm okay right away, knowing I had the date. I quickly, breathing heavy, run through what just happened as I'm driving out of the parking lot. I tell her I can't breathe and that I'm terrified, and what if he follows my truck? She's comforting me as I drive and rationalizing for me. I asked her to stay on the line while I drove home, and she does. So, Aaron, Tinder dude who couldn't take no for an answer, don't ever come near me again. A few years ago, my ex-husband and I moved our new little family into a cute 3-bedroom house. It was painted blue, and therefore has since been called the Blue House. The first week there, we were in our living room watching television, when a massive shadow went up the wall behind us, onto the ceiling where a mist formed with it. It moved across the ceiling, down the hallway, and disappeared into the nursery. I was a diehard skeptic at this time. My ex-husband asked me if I saw it. I'm ashamed to say I told him I had and that it was merely someone's headlights outside. He argued that the windows were not near any road, and the mist was not explained by that theory. I shrugged it off and accepted my explanation anyway. We began having experiences hearing footsteps running down the hallway to the bathroom, banging and scratching on the walls, toys turning on and off without batteries, hearing children cry outside the nursery window, large shadow and mist movement daily, a full-body apparition of a woman, the kids complaining they could not sleep because they would not leave them alone, cold spots, lights flickering and going off, sounds of heavy furniture being moved around in the vacant bedroom, the television going on and off on its own, accompanied by an odd, high-pitched hum, and sometimes a faint sound of music. I continued to find explanations for all of these events, and ignored what I could. As things escalated, everyone in the household experienced nightmares, and some of us began sleepwalking. I was one of them, and I had the most frequent episodes. I would wake up under the kitchen table, on the floor in odd places, and even outside. There would be mud on my feet and other signs that I had been outside. My family said I would have my eyes open, but did not respond to them like myself, and I just seemed vacant. We were advised to try and get EVPs, to talk to it, to ask questions. Doing this was our undoing. We caught some low-class EVPs in the question and answer stage. Nothing alarming or conclusive. Following our EVP session, when we went to bed, something growled. I was in bed, and my ex-husband was reaching up to the ceiling fan to turn the light off, leaving the fan on. Something growled angrily from the foot of the bed. I thought it was our dog, but I found her at my mother's feet, in the den where she had been when I left to go to bed. We searched our property outside, found nothing. Even after all that, I was convinced some stray or even my dog growling must have been what we heard. Later that night, I woke up to something strange. My computer monitor was visible at the foot of the bed. Standing in front of the monitor was the silhouette of my shirtless ex-husband. His back was to me, and he was just standing there. I called out to him, but he didn't answer or turn around. Something told me to look at his side of the bed. I did, and nothing was there. I looked back, and my husband had vanished into thin air. I realized that what I had seen couldn't have been a person. I smelled something burning. Then the covers began to be pulled down off of me. I froze. The air conditioner was a window unit. It began to beep and go from low fan to medium fan to high fan, and then back to low over and over. In unison with each fan cycle change, the blinds were flipping open and shut, along with banging on the walls. I suddenly became a little girl. I felt like all the air had been sucked out of my body. I couldn't take air in to make a sound, and I'm embarrassed to say I urinated myself. When I finally could take air in, I gasped and began screaming for my mother like a child. I mustered the courage to finally move and reached for the doorknob next to the bed. At that moment, my husband came in and flipped the light on, at which point everything stopped. He had been in the bathroom vomiting. His mysterious illness stopped right then as well. I started looking for a new home. I was no longer the skeptic. Before moving, I found a necklace on my dresser one day. I thought it was left there as a gift, so I put it on thinking nothing of it. A couple of days later, I woke up to a blinding headache. My husband had got up to get my migraine medicine, but fainted just outside our bedroom. I got up and went down too. I crawled to the kids' room, and I found my son first. I got him roused enough to help him walk outside. I went back into the house for my daughter and husband. My husband crawled out while I located our daughter. She was 3 at the time. I found her tiny little body blue and unresponsive in her bedroom. I drug her out the front door thinking after I called 911, I would return to the home and lay down. I believed my daughter was dead and wished to follow. My thinking obviously was very muddled. I went in and retrieved our phone, passing out twice in the process. When I returned to the front door, my daughter's eyes were wide open, so I laid down in the yard and called for help. When paramedics and firemen arrived, I was told we had carbon monoxide poisoning. The firemen said 30 per square feet was lethal, and my home was over 500 per square feet. Just sort of barbecuing in the living room, no explanation for those levels was found in the home. No one in my family knew where that necklace had come from. I removed it at the hospital and left it there. We moved shortly after that. The last night, everyone was at our new home while I was at the Blue House cleaning so we could collect our deposit. I was tired from the night before. The whispers and the banging on the walls was relentless. I was in my bedroom when someone knocked on the door. I went and looked through the peephole to see the silhouette of a man I believed to be the neighbor across the street. I saw him lean down and look into the peephole as well, and then a bright light behind him appeared. He just turned and walked away. I opened the door, and there was no one there. After shutting the door, I realized he had stooped down to look in the peephole at me. How was that possible, I thought? He wasn't taller than me. Anxiety hit as it began to hit me that the tall man could not have been my neighbor or any normal human being. My lungs started to seize up, and I rushed to the bedroom to get my rescue inhaler out of my purse. That's the last thing I remember. The next thing I can recall, I was being slammed into a wall, falling from a standing position. I was in the living room. I was freezing. I had never been so cold. I looked around and was very confused about where I was. I didn't recognize the house without our furnishings. I was so cold at that point, my jaw was chattering. I wandered briefly through the home, trying to get my bearings as to where I was. I got into the bathroom, and at that point, I began to have this déjà vu feeling. Like, I knew this place, but I couldn't put it together in my head. Everything was fuzzy and slow-moving. I was desperate to get warm. I could see in the mirror that my lips were blue. What the hell is wrong with me, I thought. I began filling the tub with hot water, and I stripped, quickly climbing in. As the water filled and my body began to warm up, I saw my cell phone on the floor next to the tub. It must have fallen out of my bra when I was undressing. I used to keep my cell phone in my bra along with money, etc. So I picked it up and I called my husband. When he answered, I started crying, I just woke up, I'm so cold. He was frantic. Where are you? Where have you been? I've been calling you for hours. You didn't come home. I looked around the bathroom. I finally recognized it. I told him I was at the Blue House. Babe, where have you been? We last spoke over 5 hours ago. It's 3 a.m. It took about a half an hour to warm my body enough that I could just get out of the tub. My husband came and got me, and I was so confused to even figure out how to get my home on my own. I took about a half an hour to warm my body, enough that I could get out of the tub. My husband came and got me. I was way too confused to even figure out how to get to my home on my own. I can't express how terrifying this was. It turns out the man I thought I saw had passed away. I don't know what I was doing in that 5 hours. It's scary to be up doing things with no recollection of it, and I don't know what happened to me that night or why. Seizure, maybe? I try not to think about it. We have continued to have issues, but very mild in comparison. We lost one of our children to suicide about a year after moving. I can't help wonder if it had anything to do with what attacked me. Had it attacked him after leaving the Blue House? He left no note, and we're forever left not knowing. I have accepted that there are no answers for me. My best friend lives next door to the Blue House, and she says that the new neighbors don't complain of having any issues. She had experienced something every time she had come into the Blue House when I lived there, but she has not experienced anything while on any of her visits to see the new neighbors. I'm too terrified to even pass by that house. I don't visit her in her home. She comes to visit me. I am a shadow of the person I once was. The events at the Blue House severely traumatized me and my family. My son's death sent me over the edge into a full nervous breakdown, which is not as dramatic as it may sound. I simply quit functioning. I closed myself off from the world and just stopped. I could not remember how to do a job I had done daily for 5 years. I had to be walked through it daily until I was finally terminated. I cried so much that my face was chapped all the time. Even now, 4 years later, I'm struggling to reclaim my life. I pray no one else comes into contact with whatever that thing was. Sharing this helps me let it go and heal, and I'm open to any alternate explanations and discussions. You don't have to agree with me, and you can even think I'm crazy. I only ask that you be respectful. Crazy or not, my life has been shattered into pieces because of what I experienced. Thank you. Shine on.